The theme of the liturgy is the gathering of the nations into a single community. The first reading is the one I'd like to look mostly at. One of the things to understand about the first reading is understood by Jews today as the prophecy of the establishment of the present state of Israel. If you notice, it talks about Jews coming from all over the world in different kinds of transportation to return to Jerusalem. And so they consider the fulfillment of that the newly established state of Israel. The thing I'd like to look at in it, particularly near the end of the first reading, when they name those cities, they actually are moving out geographically from Jerusalem until finally they mention that they'll be called from the coastlands. Whenever they mention the coastlands in the Bible, they're talking about Greece. So as far as the known world, those cities, they'll all be gathered together. In the Jewish tradition, all priests came from one tribe, which is the tribe of Levi. And not only that, priests came from only 2 families in the tribe of Levi. In order to be a priest, you had to be descended from Moses or Aaron. And that small group constituted the priesthood in Israel. And it was so strict that if any person exercised priesthood who was not a member of one of those 2 families, that person would be executed. The reason why I'm mentioning this, you notice he says, I'm going to draw people from all these distant lands, and he says some of them I'm going to make priests. And he wants the people in Israel to understand exactly what he ends the gospel with. Many people who we think are very important today really aren't. And many people who we think are insignificant today are very significant in the mind of God and will matter tremendously in the world to come. It's a reminder to us of our inability to make those kinds of judgments. I really feel that the power of a reading like this is to remind every one of us here that it is the intention of God that all people should be gathered into a single community one day. And in the knowledge that that is going to happen, you and I need to be very careful how we deal with everyone. I oftentimes think of it in a family. You know, when you're a parent, you discipline a child in such a way to correct them. But you have to know that the same child you discipline is going to be sitting at table with you for dinner. I should also point out that same child will one day have their hand on the plug at the end of your life. Okay? So as you're dealing with these children, you always deal with them in the knowledge that they aren't going to be away from you. They're going to be part of you. And we need to understand as Catholics, when we stand before God, you and I need to do the best we can to correct the world. We need to do the best we can to correct everything around us. But we need to do it in the knowledge that one day God expects us all to be together. So I think we really need to push for the good, but push gently. We need to correct people, correct gently. We need to gather people. We need to gather them easily, because ultimately we will all be one. And you and I do not want to create anything that will make that impossible.